pleased to be today with you, and I'm deeply thankful for the given opportunity to share my thoughts and insights on the advancement of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the achievement of its 17 global goals globally, but also in Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Chinese curse which says, "May he lives in interesting times." Well, we are living in interesting times. They are times of achievement and important progress in a number of areas around the world, such as reducing the income poverty and maternal and child mortality, expanding basic education, improving access to electricity, and much more. But they are also times of complex, formidable, and interrelated challenges. Let me mention just a few of them. Covid-19 pandemic, which is more than just a health crisis. It is a multidimensional challenge that is hitting hard on the fundamentals of human development, namely income, health, and education, and is further exacerbating vulnerabilities and inequalities, thus threatening to reverse the progress towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. This crisis is, as we know, global and deadly, and it is affecting everyone and everywhere. Other challenges which are complex and daunting and call for urgent, coordinated, and holistic response include climate change, migration, growing number of conflicts and deepening inequalities, shrinking democratic space, and erosion of human rights. These issues generate negative feedback loops and demand shifting paradigms, challenging the status quo, confronting the business as usual, moving away from linear approach to development, and breaking down silos, embracing holistic, integrated, and systemic approach. Addressing poverty and vulnerabilities and building resilience requires governments to work across ministries and sectors and within broader partnerships. Therefore, call for a government and whole of society approach is not anymore a choice, it is an imperative. Agenda 2030, which came into force in January 2016, is the boldest manifesto that humanity has ever had. It is a normative agenda that gives us a sense of direction and an action plan for protecting the people and the planet and promoting peace, prosperity, and partnership. Its 17 goals are bolder, interdependent, and indivisible, transformative, and action-oriented. Sustainable Development Goals are underpinned by three key principles: universality, which implies that all goals and targets are relevant to all governments and actors, both developed and developing countries. However, targets and indicators have to be adjusted and customized to the local context. The second one is integration. Policy integration means balancing all three sustainable development dimensions: social, environmental, and economic. An integrated approach implies managing trade-offs and maximizing synergies across targets. And the third principle is leaving no one behind. This principle advocates countries to go beyond averages and use disaggregated data for policy choices and decision-making. For the first time since 1972, when the quest for environmental sustainability started, the three dimensions of sustainable development have been merged with the human development paradigm, and a strong focus has been put on good governance, human rights, and gender. Delivering on this agenda and accelerating the implementation of the SDGs requires conducive political settlements and transformative public service, which is not only effective and efficient, but also embraces innovation and foresight, since only future-oriented societies can cope with the complex challenges of the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 milestones on the road towards SDGs implementation. The first one is alignment. there is a need to assess national priorities and see to what extent they align with the SDGs. The second one is to have data, accurate and reliable data, which will enable us to monitor and report. The third one is to move from planning to real action and to set right priorities. Then we need to integrate this into budget frameworks, and we need to ensure that the commensurate resources are provided and strong partnerships are established. Ukraine has embarked on the SDGs journey in 2016, and following a broad-based consultative and participatory process, nationalized the global goals. The National Baseline Report, SDGs Ukraine, was released by the government in 2017. 86 national SDGs targets and 172 indicators were selected. In 2018, Interministerial Working Group was established by the Ministry of Economy to coordinate the integration of the SDGs into sectoral policies, strategies, action plans, and budget frameworks. In August 2018, the report of the United Nations Mainstreaming, Acceleration, and Policy Support Mission was released. The report, the so-called MAPS report, discusses the human development backdrop, the positive factors at work, the strong decelerator effect of the conflict in eastern Ukraine, and the main pressure points in attaining SDGs. Based on a detailed analysis of key areas of sustainable development, it provides policy and institutional recommendations to national and subnational authorities to support SDGs attainment. The report also identifies a small number of accelerators. These are concrete flagship priority policy steps the government can take in distinct but interrelated critical areas. The proposed accelerators include, firstly, implementing a youth employment plan and transitioning to formal economy. Secondly, removing remaining direct and indirect fossil fuel subsidies to stimulate green growth and increase fiscal space. Thirdly, building an integrated, fiscally sustainable system of social protection services and benefits, taking into account the needs of the conflict-affected population, including those residing in non-government control areas. Fourthly, building an effective justice system, including a fully independent judiciary. Fifth, developing and implementing an integrated, coherent, and adequately funded national health program to improve health and well-being for all. And lastly, sixth one is closing the gap in women's economic and political participation and eliminating discriminatory gender stereotypes. In September 2019, President Zelensky issued a decree number 722 on Ukraine's Sustainable Development Goals until 2030, which gave a new impetus to the country's strong commitment to rally behind the SDGs as a way towards prosperity, resilience, and peace. Last year, the first SDGs Nationally Voluntary Review was presented to the UN High-Level Political Forum in New York. The review is based on 2015-2019 data and reveals that some progress has been made in such areas as poverty reduction, SDG 1, gender equality, SDG 5, good health and well-being, SDG 3, and quality education, SDG 4. However, despite considerable efforts these past 5 years, we are not on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. We must dramatically step up the pace of implementation as we enter a decisive decade for people and planet. We must connect the dots across all that we do as individuals, civic groups, corporations, municipalities, and member states of the United Nations, and truly embrace the principles of inclusion and sustainability. The COVID-19 pandemic has without doubt made the SDGs challenge even more difficult. The crisis and its negative socioeconomic impact have led to setbacks across many of the areas which I have covered above. At the onset of the COVID-19 emergency, the UN Secretary General assigned a technical lead role for the socioeconomic impact assessments and the subsequent preparation of socioeconomic response plans to the United Nations Development Programme. In Ukraine, we conducted the assessment in the summer of 2020, and its findings, policy recommendations, and advice were presented to the Prime Minister and Cabinet of Ministers in September last year. Some of the key findings of the assessment include: the socioeconomic outlook in Ukraine is rather bleak. The crisis and the imposed quarantine lockdown have caused reduction in outputs, household spending, and trade. The disruption of the global value chains has led to a steep decline of GDP. Most of the small and medium enterprises are subject to supply, demand, and liquidity constraints. More than 10% of micro, small, and medium enterprises are on the brink of bankruptcy. The unemployment is on the rise. More than 4 million people were registered as unemployed since March last year when the lockdown was introduced. However, we believe that the number is much higher due to the large share of informal economy. More than 9 million people are falling back into the poverty trap. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by the COVID crisis because of their high exposure to the virus. In Ukraine, women account for 82% of the total health and social workers, compared to 70% average worldwide. And also, the crisis and the lockdown have led to a spike in domestic violence. The reported cases since the pandemic hit Ukraine in March last year have increased by 30%. To address these challenges and support Ukraine's efforts towards recovery from the emergency forward better and greener, the United Nations Development Programme responded swiftly to the COVID crisis through multiple channels. UNDP's first COVID-19 response offer, Prepare, Response, Recover, set the basis for the organization's rapid global response to the pandemic. UNDP's Rapid Response Facility is a funding mechanism, dispatched vital funding within 72 hours of a country request to address pre-existing vulnerabilities such as poverty, insecurity, and fragile infrastructure. Such support helped the government of Ukraine to source critical medical supplies and personal protective equipment, leverage vital digital solutions such as e-health and e-government platforms to ensure business continuity and enhance national crisis coordination and management capacity. UNDP's second COVID-19 response offer, which is entitled Beyond Recovery Towards 2030, was designed to help decision makers to look beyond recovery in four main areas: governance, social protection, green economy, and digital disruption. Colleagues, UNDP is the backbone and the development arm of the United Nations, which has the broader perspective on development. Like in many other countries, in Ukraine, UNDP is the largest UN entity. We operate in Ukraine since 1992, and we are present in all 24 regions of the country, including in the conflict-affected oblast in the east. UNDP's vision for Ukraine for 2021 and beyond stems from and is informed by the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and its 17 global goals, and also from the local context and national priorities. Our vision is anchored in a troika of policy platforms. Firstly, equal access to opportunities such as healthcare, education, income, justice, and legal aid. The second platform is economic growth, which is sustainable and generates employment, which is inclusive, equitable, green, and just and fair. And the third one is democracy, and good governance, which are underpinned by effective, efficient, transparent, accountable, responsive, and corruption-free institutions, rule of law, and human rights, gender equality, and social cohesion. Digital transformation and greening the economy cut across these three policy platforms and are very powerful multipliers and accelerators of development. Therefore, they are and will be a central consideration, not an afterthought in all of our interventions. Our strategic intent is to ensure successful recovery, which must be inclusive, sustainable, and just. And we will continue supporting Ukraine's strive for accelerating the achievement of the SDGs through maintaining a programmatic presence at the regional and local level, with a particular focus on the conflict-affected communities in the East, providing top-notch policy advice and cutting-edge programmatic response to development challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.